We've been talking a lot about procrastination on this channel lately. How difficult it can be to turn an intention into action. Frankly, it is amazing we ever get anything done at all. How this works, we learned from the Rubicon model of action phases. And today we'll have a look at that. Welcome to the Soft Skill channel. My name is Sebastian Jung and today I'd like to present to you the Rubicon model of action phases. The model describes an action from the very beginning, from the first vague idea, oh maybe I could, to the final conclusion. The model is very useful to better understand procrastination. Höcker, Engbeding and Rist, the German psychologists whose books I used to explain procrastination, they use the model to explain how procrastination works, and they present it in their books. So this we will keep in mind today, that we will also use the Rubicon model to better understand procrastination. But first, we should figure out what a Rubicon is. It's about an historical event. We are in the year 49 BC. Julius Caesar has just conquered Gaul, and now there is some trouble with the Roman Senate, and Caesar is considering a coup d'etat. What he does is he crosses the river Rubicon with his legions. At that time, the Rubicon marked the border between Italy, the core region of the Roman Empire, and the Roman province of Gallia Cisalpina. And crossing the Rubicon with his armies meant a declaration of war against the Roman Senate. The moment he crossed the Rubicon, a civil war had started. It was irrevocable. There was no turning back anymore. And therefore, this crossing of the Rubicon is used as a metaphor in the Rubicon model. And we'll see in a moment how that works. The Rubicon model describes different action phases, and the very first of those is called the pre-decisional phase. This is about choosing. This is about motivation. What do I want to do? Because I have all of the time wishes, ideas, possibilities on my mind, and I'm wondering, oh, which should I choose? What should I do? What should I put into action? I'm comparing advantages and disadvantages. I'm wondering about attractiveness. How much do I want this? How important is this? I'm wondering about feasibility. How difficult would it be to achieve this? How would be my chance of success? How much effort would I have to put in? So I might be wondering, oh, I could write a bestseller. This would be quite attractive. But it's difficult to realize. I could eat some chocolate. This would be easy to realize if I have some at home. It's very easy to do. But the attractiveness suffers from the fact that it is unhealthy, and that I am already overweight. So, for my health, it would be better to do some running, to go jogging. This would be quite healthy, so it is attractive, and it is feasible because I have some running shoes, and in the area there are places where I can go jogging, so I think I will do that. And the moment I make a decision, the moment I say this is what I will put into action, this moment I'm crossing the Rubicon. Now you might say, wait, this isn't irrevocable, you can still change your mind. Yes, I can, but not without a cost. There would be a psychological cost if I change my mind at this point. I would probably experience it as defeat or failure. I would have to justify this before myself. I've made this decision. Why don't I do it now? I've decided upon it. Why do I change my mind now? So I can still turn back, but not without a cost. For procrastinators, The pre-decisional phase is often difficult because they tend to linger too long in this phase and to avoid making a clear decision. And what can help here is to really consciously make the decision, really say to yourself, this is what I have decided, this is what I will do. You can use some classic tricks here. You can write your intention down to add additional commitment. You can tell someone else about it. I could say to my girlfriend, hey, I've decided to go jogging. This would add additional commitment and obligation. So this can be helpful. After crossing the Rubicon, I've passed over from the pre-decisional phase into the pre-actional phase. This phase is about planning, and it is no longer about motivation because I have decided what I want. Now it is about volition. It is about turning my intention into action. It is about how do I achieve that which I have decided upon. Often I can't turn my decision into action right away. I have to wait for the right opportunity. For example, I might have decided to go jogging, but it was at night and it was raining outside. Or maybe I made the decision while I was at work and had other things to do. So I have to wait for the right opportunity, and I might have to do some planning. For example, I could turn my vague intention into a specific if-then resolution, such as saying, tomorrow morning, after I get up, if the weather is all right, then I will go jogging. For procrastinators, this can be, this can of course be a difficult phase because the main problem of procrastination is to turn intention into action and to really get started. So Höcker, Engbedding and Rist focus heavily on this phase in their anti-procrastination program that I've presented to you. They have different approaches and techniques to deal with this phase, such as realistic planning or the working time restriction, where you select specific slots for working. This also helps to deal with this phase. Now, one problem procrastinators might encounter here is that they over or under plan. Under planning would be to say, oh, I will go jogging sometime. Now, this is not specific enough to really get put into action. On the other hand, I might also overplan. I might spend so much time planning that planning itself becomes an activity I use to procrastinate, that I do instead of what I actually intended. I might buy books and gather information about running and learn about running instead of actually doing the running. So this is also a risk. I might also over or underestimate the task. I might say, oh, running, this is so quick and easy. I will do it shortly before I go to bed in the evening because it's so quick and easy. Or I might turn it into something big and scary and intimidating in my mind. Like, oh, jogging is so difficult and so exhaustive. I don't think I can do it. So those are also risks here. Making the final step, passing the threshold from intention to action and really starting can be difficult for procrastinators, and it can be helpful to really observe yourself and try to figure out what is it that makes it so difficult for me? What are the problems here for me personally? Once I have passed that threshold and really started, once I'm outside and doing the running, doing the jogging, I have passed into the actional phase that is about acting. This is still a phase where volition is important because I'm still trying to finish my intention. I'm still dealing with the how do I achieve what I've decided upon. Now, I've made a big step in actually starting. However, I still have to persevere until the end. That I've started doesn't automatically mean that I will also successfully finish my task. For procrastinators, there are two possible problems here. The first is that they get distracted. For example, imagine you're writing a term paper for university, you have to look something up on the internet. While you're at it, you quickly have a look at YouTube, and 3 hours later you realize you aren't really writing that term paper anymore. Or you might get distracted by interruptions, or maybe there is noise, something like that, and you don't know how to properly deal with that, and you get out of working, you get distracted from working, and end up doing something else. And another risk is that you encounter additional problems and challenges along the way that need additional energy, additional effort to overcome. For example, one time where I actually went running. Now, this is not fantasy. I actually did this before. One time I noticed that my shoes were slightly damaged and some rubber parts had come loose, and I had to use some glue to fix it before I could go running. So this would have been a good opportunity to say, oh well, if my shoes are broken, I won't do it, whatever, I'll do something else. So this is a challenge if you encounter additional obstacles that you need to overcome. If you actually go through with it and successfully finish your task, you pass over into the final phase, the post-actional phase. And this phase is about evaluating. This is again about motivation. Volition is done at this point because you've achieved your goal. The how is no longer a question. But now the question is, did I get what I originally wanted? Because when you made the decision, you had something in mind you wanted to achieve, you wanted to get out of it. Maybe I imagined myself easily running 50 laps around the local forest because I imagined myself to be quite fit, something like that. And now I've actually done it. I've noticed, oh well, I can go a few meters and then I'm totally spent, out of breath and wasted. So my imagination, my original wish, and my actual result are quite difficult. Quite different. Now what I have to do is to fix this discrepancy in some way. I could, for example, lower my expectations and say, oh well, what I did was fine. I did some running. I did as best as I could. It's okay. I'm fine with how things turned out, and I'm fine with that result. Or I could put in additional effort, start the cycle anew. For example, I could say, oh well, I will take a break and then I will do some more running. Or I will go running again tomorrow so I get more fit and I can run for longer distances. Anyway, I have to fix this discrepancy, get rid of this discrepancy in some way. For procrastinators, this can be difficult for various reasons. They might have started the whole thing with inflated expectations of what they wanted to achieve, such as my 50 rounds around the local forest thing. And of course, that makes it difficult to fix the discrepancy because in this case, the discrepancy is very big. Also, I might view the actual result in a very positive or negative light. For example, by saying, oh well, I did it in the last minute, it didn't turn out that great, but considering it was done in the last minute, it's just fine. Or I might view it in a very negative light by saying, oh, all other joggers are so much better and I'm useless and everything I do is bad. So this might also increase the discrepancy and make this more difficult. Once I have gotten rid of the discrepancy in some way, once I am fine with the result, the final step I need to take is to detach myself from this intention. I have finished what I had planned to do. I have achieved the result I wanted to achieve. So now I'm concluding this whole business and turning to something else. And even here, there might be some challenges for procrastinators. Höcker, Engbedding, and Rist describe an example where a student had already finished writing a term paper, but couldn't make the final step of handing it in. So this student was not able to say, oh, well, I'm fine with how it turned out. This is okay for me. I will now hand it in. And really be done with this business. So this can really be a challenge. Finally, I'd like to say a few words about the model. As I mentioned, the model is important in motivational psychology. It was created by Heinz Heckhausen, but other psychologists, other researchers used the model and expanded and modified the model. Peter Gollwitzer is important here, Julius Kuhl, Thomas Goschke, and others. So it was used a lot and worked with a lot. The sources I used were, for once, the books by Höcker, Engbedding, and Rist, because they also describe the Rubicon model there. And I used this book, some light reading, as you can see, Motivation and Action. There is an English translation available of this one, Motivation and Action it's called. In here there is an article by Gollwitzer and Achziger about the Rubicon model called Motivation and Volition in the Course of Action. And this also was one of the sources used by Höcker, Engbedding, and Rist, so I had a look at that. The model is important, among other things, because it considers both motivation and volition and puts them into context. Because volition was neglected in motivational psychology and motivational research for a long time, so it is important it got its proper place here. And the model is quite useful to better understand procrastination, so I think it is a nice addition to the other videos about procrastination. You are now probably in the pre-decisional phase. Should I like the video, write a comment, subscribe to the channel? I hope all of those ideas make it across the Rubicon. And I hope you will join us again next week when we have another book review. Die Entscheidung liegt bei dir, The Decision is Up to You by Reinhard Sprenger. For today I take my leave. Have a nice day. See you next time.